Welcome back to Deep Route Conversations. I am Ayir Asante, and we are thankful for you guys who subscribed and have been supporting the channel, supporting the podcast. Today we have another great guest, a friend, a peer, a dog, someone that I've taken a lot from his game, I learned from on and off the field. A guy who's done a lot for his family, his community, and is continuing to do more. Without further ado, Donald Stewart.
Appreciate you for having me, my boy.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you for coming. And let's just get right into it. We can just start with, a little bit of your background, where you're from, and you can just go from there.
Smooth, yeah. So I grew up in Jersey. I'm the oldest. There's 4 siblings in total. Both my parents are in education. 2 of my younger brothers. One of them is in Jordan. He's in politics administration. Also coaches receivers at Montclair State.
Okay.
And Justin is a basketball coach, women's upstate New York. And he also is a teacher. And then my younger sister, she's a swimmer, and she's a junior in high school. So grew up right here in Jersey, Union County, born and raised. And, yeah, man, just excited to be on the podcast.
Yeah, let's get it. So, obviously you're a football player. Did you play any other sports when you were growing up?
Yeah, man. So I played basketball, baseball, football, track. And when I got to high school, mainly just focused on basketball, football, and track because I got cut in baseball. So
Why'd you get cut?
Man, so I actually went to Seton Prep for baseball.
Yeah.
And then I got cut my freshman year. And then after that, I just stopped playing.
Yeah, it just was what it was.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously you played a lot of sports. Do you think, I kind of talked on the last episode with Khalil about this. Do you think, being multifaceted in like the sports that you played, that helped with your success in football and, success in basketball and stuff like that? Or, I think, we're in the age now of being specific with your training, sports-specific training and stuff like that. And, there's always that online debate of whether you should play multiple sports or whatever. So kind of what's your take on that?
Yeah, man, I think that's a great question. I feel as if for me, playing multiple sports helped me with the sport that I actually specialized in when I was ready to specialize. I think when you're growing up, you don't know what you're going to be good at. You kind of, doing different sports to get out the house. You're doing sports just to make friends. You're doing sports just to be active in the community. So when you finally realize, where you want to specialize, where you want to go, then that's when you can kind of be more particular about what you want to work on. But all the sports help me with being a receiver.
Yeah.
So especially baseball, when I'm fielding ground balls, when I'm trying to hit a baseball at, 80, 70 miles an hour, that helped with my eye-hand coordination. When I was playing basketball, that agility helped me with my routes, So I would recommend kids to play as many sports as possible. Obviously getting good grades first, but when you're ready to specialize, then you'll know, and you could take everything that you learn from multiple sports and put it into one that you want to spend more time with.
I think, you made a great point. There's definitely a bunch of overlap, like you said, hand-eye, definitely going from baseball and then catching a football,
100%.
Right? I think that, some of the most natural punt catchers or just punt returners, I guess, that I've worked with were outfielders. You know what I mean?
Makes sense.
All the time they've worked with tracking the ball and, getting under it. So I definitely agree. I think that there's a lot of, like I said, overlap, but there's a lot that you can take from other games, and then you don't really know what you want to do when you're younger.
You don't really know.
I think a lot of people kind of have that story of like, I knew I wanted to be this since then. And it's like, I don't know if that's exactly true. I know there's a certain age that you get to a point you're like, all right, like this is the sport. And I think it's directly related to what you're best at.
True.
And, for some people it is different. They might, you have all those football players like, I could be in the NBA. You know what I mean? Yeah. All the NBA players, I could play football,
Yeah.
And I think that's just more of a competitive nature, more joking around than seriousness. But I think most people go with what they're best at. And I think a lot of it comes from the different things that you learn, right? Change of direction. A lot of my footwork that I learned was from soccer.
Okay.
And if you can run and, scissor and do all this stuff with the soccer ball, when you get out there on the football field, your feet are real light and everyone's like, oh, how did you do that? And I'm like, playing soccer. You know what I mean? And it gets your, there's just different aspects of the game that you get from other things. And, I was talking with Khalil about, being an O-lineman. He wished he wrestled.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, because they're in there, they're basically grappling the whole time and everything like that. So, I think it's a good thing to touch on. I really haven't met too many people outside of the internet that, think that specifying in one sport, at an early age is kind of the way to go. And here's the thing. I mean, I think that you kind of touched on it. What if this kid doesn't want to do that? Right? It's like that's when you get into that weird territory of like living out, your dream through your kid,
Sure.
and I think that a lot of people stay away from that. I think that, my parents, and I feel like any parent that allows their kid to play as many sports or do as many activities when they're young kind of does a good job at allowing their kid to explore.
Exactly. And also to your point, it prevents burnout.
100%.
Yo, could you imagine if we played football all day, every day from 3rd grade up? You're going to be low-key tired of the game. But you get, different seasons. You try different sports. You meet different people. You work different muscles. You're exposed to so
100%.
many different things. And then you can ultimately come back and say, okay, like, this is what I want to do.
100%.
So for me, I don't know what it was, bro, but I always wanted to go to Ohio State. That was my dream school. So I knew I was going to play college football.
Who's your favorite player?
Terrell Pryor.
Yeah.
I loved him. QB, play receiver.
Yeah.
So I loved him growing up. Obviously like Jim Tressel and all the
dogs.
Yeah, bro. Yeah. So that was like my goal from like 4th grade, but I definitely did other sports. Yeah. Not knowing it would help, but it definitely translated.
100%. I mean, at that age, you're doing what's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah. Like at the end of the day, you're a competitor.
Yeah, you just want to have fun.
I mean, we came up on the playground, and you're just starting off with who's the fastest. Playing tag, making people miss, and then you go to we used to play jackpot, throwing it up, and then you just every year, field day used to go crazy. Man, I couldn't wait till field day. Used to be acting up in school. They'd be like, if you keep acting up, you're gonna take away field day. Take away that field trip.
Tighten up.
But in all seriousness, I think it is directly related. Let the kids do what they have fun doing. I think it's a natural progression, and like you said, it's a great point. Burnout is real.
Burnout's real.
And like when you're young, like you're playing the sport because it's fun, right? You're having a bunch of fun doing it. I can't imagine making this sport or this game really a sport at that young age where now you're, I couldn't imagine talking about analytics and percentages and honestly even coverages and stuff when we were that young. Like, man, I'm running this sweep.
To get open, to win, to score.
Bro, I was a running back before we was a receiver because we ain't had no quarterbacks when, we're Pee-wee, junior Pee-wee, whatever. So I'm like, hey, give me this sweep and let me run. So it was, just a little bit different. But you kind of already tapped into the next thing I want to talk about. So you started with Seton Hall Prep. What kind of led you to that decision? Did you have anyone else that went there or, just how'd you get there?
Funny enough, man, I wanted to go to St. Peter's.
Yep.
So Dennis James was my best friend. Grew
Okay.
up on Hillside with him. Saw him every single day. And he was like, yo, come in for freshman for a day. I'll take you on a tour. So I met Brandon Wimbush, Minka Fitzpatrick,
Goats.
and gave me a tour around the school. I loved it. Long story short, I wasn't like a big name in, Pop Warner football. So, the coach really didn't know who I was. So I went to Seton Hall Prep because I guess it was like a little bit closer. And they had
just made more sense at the time.
Made more sense at the time. So start off there and then transferred to PC midway through my sophomore year. And then I guess like the rest is history from that, honestly.
100%.
Yeah.
Now, when you were at Seton Hall Prep, did you have immediate success? Like, what was that like? Because I kind of, know you more for the Paramus Catholic.
Got you.
So kind of talk about that, those 2 years at Seton Hall.
Quick background. So I started off playing in Elizabeth Pop Warner. My first year, I won the Heisman.
Yeah.
Right? After that, it was just terrible.
Okay.
So, won the Heisman 4th grade, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, couldn't catch the ball, couldn't run, couldn't tackle, couldn't do nothing. Yeah. When I got to Seton Hall Prep my freshman year, I was like, okay, this is over with. I'm starting anew. Let's turn up. Yeah. And that was my first year, aside from 4th grade, where I actually turned up. So I was playing freshman ball, just having fun, just trying to win my matchups. Yep. Receiver, DN. Sophomore year, I played varsity. We're in the wing T offense, so it was a little tough to really spread my wings. And then ultimately, when I transferred to PC, just playing the national schedule, having our teammates that are already D1 caliber, having coaches come in, and it was just the right fit at the right time. I honestly went into the perfect storm. Yeah. Yeah.
And, for our viewers, obviously Seton Hall's kind of had a little bit of a resurgence right now. they weren't like that back then.
Nah.
Right. It was more, I would say, more of an academic school at that point.
Yep.
I mean, they're all obviously academic in the conference, but you know, there's a little bit more of an emphasis away from football. You know, I'm not gonna say they didn't care, but it was just a little bit different than what it is now. You know, they got Coach Fitzgerald, who was my offensive coordinator actually at St. Peter's Prep. I want to say
OC?
Freshman and sophomore year.
I like Coach Fitz.
I think freshman and sophomore. Yeah, freshman might have even been my junior year. I don't even. He was my OC for the first couple of years, but you know, hard coach.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that he's done a great job over there, kind of bringing that culture, and you know, they've won a lot of games. I think they've done a lot. They've done well for themselves. So it was obviously a lot different back then. So transferring in high school back then was crazy, and you know, a lot different than what it is now. So how did you get that courage to, you know, just make that decision? You know, understand like, all right, this is what I want to do, and you know, I'm about to take that leap.
Yeah, man. When I transferred, I was like, 15 years old. I was scared. I was nervous. But ultimately, I knew that, you know, my parents and God was putting me in the situation for me to succeed long term. So I told, like, my best friends at the time, like, yo, like, I might not be back here the next day. So it was crazy, bro. So I visited PC on a Monday.
Okay.
I came to Seton Hall Prep on a Tuesday. And my dad was like, don't tell nobody.
Yeah.
And I told, like my 5 closest friends.
Yeah.
And some of them thought I was joking. Some of them knew I was serious.
Mm-hmm.
Next day, I was in PC on Wednesday.
No.
Just like that. I'm in PC.
It's that quick.
Co-ed school,
Yeah.
different area of New Jersey. And it was hard. It was a hard transition, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a new kid. I didn't know nobody.
Yeah.
I didn't know anybody at PC. So I was just really just trying to make a name for myself. And then obviously, you know, we had weight room. We had camp. Every day was a battle for me, bro. Yeah, every day.
I mean, and at that point, did you have any overlap with Jabril?
So he's 2 years older than me.
Okay.
So when I finished playing my sophomore year at Seton Hall Prep, he had just finished his senior year at PC.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I'm not sure, did he early enroll at Michigan?
I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
I know he committed on ESPN, you know, and everything with his rap.
It was lit. That's legendary stuff for sure. But and the reason why I ask is, you know, obviously Jabril's a legend.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of, you know, started that wave of you know, what is it, PC living?
Yeah.
You know, a whole different culture that was kind of set at Paramus Catholic. And I mean, it was him, Rashawn Gary, you, and it was just a wave of, you know, dogs at that time. And again, another school that I think before that really wasn't like that.
Wasn't.
And you know, funny enough, Jabril was at Don Bosco for his first 2 years, transfers to PC, and it was like, all right, changing the culture, that running it up, wins 2 more state championships. For anyone that doesn't know, Jabril won 4 state championships in 4 years. 2 at Don Bosco, 2 at Paramus. So if anyone ever questions if he was like that, he was like that. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Offense, defense, special teams.
Any and everything.
State championships in track. Yeah.
Records that still hold up, I'm pretty sure. But
and I really respected, you know, he was kind of actually one of the people that helped me get acclimated to PC.
Yeah.
So when I came in, he was like, listen, bro, like I transferred to, like I know how it is, but he was just like, yo, just learn the playbook. Like, get in shape, and he was like, anything that come your way, just snag it. Because, like I said, he was on his way out.
Yeah.
When I was coming in. So he was like, listen, bro, like, the coaches is cool. We got the juice right now. Like, just handle your 1-2. Like, you're going to be smooth. And I'm like, all right, bet. And then, low-key, like, passed the torch.
I'm saying that he did. I mean, you went there and went crazy. Now, another thing before we continue kind of that path, you know, obviously I went to St. Peter's Prep. And when I was a freshman, my senior receiver was KJ Gray.
Okay.
So then learning about KJ, I didn't know until I think I got out of high school that he was at Seton Hall.
We went to school
with
together,
you.
bro. Yeah.
And, you know, KJ Gray's another crazy athlete. Dog, you know, went to Rutgers, ended up going to Sam Houston State, then Lincoln. Ended up getting like.
Did he get defensive player rookie?
He got the CFL like defensive rookie of the year. Like dog. You know what I mean? So like this dude is an animal.
Shout out KJ, man.
So then looking at that, Seton Hall had you and KJ. That's crazy to think about. Like looking back at it, like bro. That's kind of insane. So kind of what would like, You said you guys went there together, kind of, were you guys cool?
Yeah,
like,
we played Pop Warner a little bit together.
Yeah.
And we went to St. Prep together freshman year. Seen him we went to school together, bro. Yeah. So when he left after his freshman year, so he, left a little bit earlier, and I stayed one more year.
He didn't like it.
He had to do his best for him.
Yeah. Yeah. You should have came, right? If you would have came to prep.
Bro, I wanted to go to prep. Yeah.
If you would have came to prep, bro.
I wanted to go to prep, man.
Do you still believe that Seton Hall is prep? Or like, because, man,
they back and forth, the prep, whoever's the prep. Look, man.
You don't even care for real?
I'm Paramus Catholic. I'm PC.
You're PC. All right, bet. I like that. I like that. So then bet. All right, take me through, recruitment with college.
Okay.
You're getting traction, you're getting recognition, you're making plays at Paramus. Like you said, you're playing a national schedule. Do you guys end up playing IMG?
Yeah, man. So my first offer was June of my sophomore year, right when I got to PC in April, got the Temple offer in June, and that's how I knew, like, okay,
it's real.
It's real.
Yep.
So, yeah, we played a national schedule. We played like Gilman, IMG.
Yeah.
St. Francis, Eastern Christian, St. Edwards out of Ohio, on top of the big North Conference that we 100%. Already in.
You're in conference schedule.
Yeah, so we played in some dog fights, and a lot of those people are still playing and doing well. So definitely was a great experience and prepared me for the next level.
Oh, for sure.
It was college ball. I didn't know what I was in when I was in college ball.
You playing college ball?
I was playing
college program.
I was in the college program.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So you said your first offer was Temple.
Mm-hmm.
And, kind of what was that like for you? I mean, I remember my first offer. I remember that, that Twitter DM, you know what I mean? So how was it like for you? Kind of what you feel like? Kind of walk us through that.
I appreciate you touching on that, man. So I remember I didn't really know how PC was going to go, like I said. But for whatever reason, they saw my film from Seton Prep. The PC coaches were speaking highly of me. And then I took a visit, and then they offered me like a week later. And I remember just jumping around the house with my little brothers like, yo, I'm going to college. Like, I felt like I made it. I'm hitting them. We all hitting each other and everything. So that was a special moment, but kind of went cold, after that until the state championship my junior year. So that same year, state championship game, that's when we played Peters.
Mm-hmm.
And, everybody was out because, Minka was committed to Bama, Jordan Fox committed to Stanford, Wimbush committed to Notre Dame, and heads everywhere. Yeah. So after that game, I went 3 for 163 and two touchdowns. That's when they just started flooding in after that. Yeah.
Woke everybody up.
Yeah.
That state championship is huge. I don't think people understand playing in MetLife and how many eyes are on that. What? Crazy.
Yeah, bro.
Crazy. I mean, obviously, I've been this too, never won. Mm-hmm. But we would see and that would kind of drive all the other teams. You know what I mean? Going to the state championship or even just being in the playoffs and seeing a team win and all their kids get offered. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, come on, man. Like. But I mean, obviously, it works out when you win. So it's the best thing ever. But that's huge, though.
Like I said, I was in the perfect storm because I think that a lot of people, like PC, had a lot of energy. It was on the wave. It was on the come up, right? But when you have people like Rashawn and Drew Singleton, who are all Americans, all the coaches were coming to watch them. And I just so happened to just be there.
100%.
Yeah. 100%. So I feel like I just kind of got lucked up, honestly. Yeah.
I mean, and that's kind of the allure of those type of schools.
100%.
Right? Like, I mean, again, like I was kind of similar to you, like not as known from Pop Warner. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to be bringing eyes or anything like that. But when I'm going to practice and we have 3 Adidas All-Americans at practice, you're going to have every school coming through. Yep. Right. They're coming through classes. We're in the gym playing basketball. They're coming through. So, I mean, I don't think I ever told this on the podcast, but I remember, so I got offered by Navy.
Okay.
And I was in the gym, and I don't even know if he came in there for me, but I was in the gym, and we were playing basketball, and I just raised up and dunked it. He stopped what he was saying, pulled out his phone, was like, yo, hold up, do that again.
Oh.
I'm like, all right. One dribble, boom. This time I really get up too. Hey.
Yeah.
Like, all right, bet. What's your name? Boom. Ayir Asante, boom. Came back the next day. Like, yeah, we were staying you an offer. I'm like, yeah. And that's just literally on some like stumbling into an offer. Like, what? But like, and you know how it is. You get one offer, now everyone, all right, who's that? Start rolling in. But there's a bunch of times where, bro, we're seeing whole coaching staffs pull up. You know what I mean? To talk to Shane, talk to Jason, talk to Justin. And it's just rubbing off. I mean, that's kind of that's why you go there, right? I mean, everyone wants to go home, be the hometown hero, and put up 2,000 yards. But, especially in a state like New Jersey, super oversaturated with talent.
Everywhere.
So you got to go where the best are and show that you can compete and play against dogs. Everyone's always going to question you. But in our conference, every corner you're going against is going somewhere.
For sure.
So every receiver that's on your team is going somewhere. So you beat somebody out to get to your opportunity and everything like that. And you don't got to worry about the quarterback play. You don't got to worry about – we got games on ESPN. You know what I mean? Like, every year. Like, it's not even – it's just kind of ridiculous the way it was set up. And, I think we've definitely been blessed to get into that opportunity. And I push that situation to anybody I can that, in the younger guys that are coming up. Obviously, everyone's situation is different. And, there are public schools that are going crazy and putting dudes out. But, it is that exposure. And you want to be able to, get the best bang for your buck. And I think that, schools in the Big North definitely do that no matter where you go.
100%. And honestly, that spoke to your character as well. Like, coaches come to the building. So for you to be able to, just be yourself when you're not trying to prove nothing. You didn't see the Navy coach and be like, oh, let me try to do a windmill 360 over somebody. Yeah. You're just in there having fun, playing with your boys. And then he happened to see you. And then you had the charisma to be able to have a conversation with him. And then he's looking you in the eye. Okay.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? So some people today, that's why I always tell like young boys today, like, you never know who's watching. So I always carry yourself
100%
and make sure you about your business.
I think you touched on a great point because I think a lot of people right now, they lose the idea, especially with, the NIL era and, the dollar signs being thrown around and everything like that. A lot of people lose that idea of character. And, for us, that was a big point of getting recruited. Like, you have to be a good dude.
Gotta be a good dude.
Right. And it's like, for one, you should want to be a good dude just to be a good dude, like in real life. You know what I mean? And I think that's, my St. Peter's Prep being a Jesuit education or a Jesuit institution, kind of pushes that idea, meant for others and stuff like that. But that was kind of like the growth that we took off the field, and it applied in recruiting, right? Being able to look another man in his eyes and, be able to shake his hand, have a conversation, and kind of present yourself, right? Kind of, represent yourself, represent your family, represent the school. I think that, a lot of people kind of lose that now. We kind of have this individualistic kind of outlook on the process. And honestly, it's a shame because, football is the greatest team sport. And I think that was one of the best things, the relationships that I built while getting recruited. And, I kind of wish that people leaned into it more. But, in reality, it is a completely different world. I mean, it's easy to say that now. But if I was in high school and people was coming up talking about this money and, you kind of had these guarantees and stuff like that, it's easy to look back at 24 and be like, man, you should do this and everything. But at 16, 17, 18, like, I don't know if we were that humble and everything like that. But again, it's just a point to make. I think character is something that a lot of people should try to focus on and incorporate in, something that is important during the process.
100%. I mean, as a former wide receiver, like at Stanford and Wake Forest, and now, doing player development for Princeton, like there's just 3 keys that I tell everybody when they ask me, like, yo, like what I got to do to play D1 or what I got to do to play ball at the next level. I say, first thing is grades. Got to have the grades. Second thing is character, what we just touched on. Yeah. And then third is the talent. If you don't have the grades, you're not even going to get a look. And then if you got a bad reputation in school, that's going to tear you off. So 100%. People think that talent is the first thing, but it's really grades and character that gets you looked at, and then the talent follows from there.
100%. And I think another thing, you're bringing up great points. I think people overlook how character can shut doors for you. Like, they don't understand how many dudes that were
like that
lost opportunities. And then even beyond that, right? Because again, if there's certain people that don't care about character and everything like that, and they're not really trying to develop you as a person. They're just using you as the football player, and that's kind of institutions and programs we try to stay away from. But it's those guys who are borderline. And it's like, man, like, you have all this potential. I hate the word potential, but you have this potential. You have this opportunity, and you're going to let yourself block your own blessing because you're a bad dude. Yeah. That's something that you can control. Yeah. And it's like, it's a shame. But then again, then you look on the positive side, there's guys who may or may not have gotten the opportunity, but then, you know, they meet the coach and they can have that conversation, or they're just a good person. You know, they're a good dude. They bring up the team. You know, it's just, you know, everyone always has that glue guy that, you know, is going to bring up the weight room. That's going to bring, and people don't understand how important that is to a team success. But that's gotten dudes offers.
Yeah.
And I, you know, I think it's just important to touch on that. But I'm glad you brought that up.
For sure.
So what made you go with Stanford?
Yeah, man. Like I said,
besides the obvious, you know, it is Stanford.
Like I said, Ohio State was my dream school, but, you know, Urban Meyer walked right past me in the hallway, so I knew that dream was clipped early on. But I think that Stanford was, you know, the best choice for me in terms of academics, athletics, and the alumni base. Yep. So it was difficult moving to the West Coast, 3,000 miles away, but I knew that, you know, eventually when ball stopped, tapping into the alumni base, the football brotherhood that, you know, we had, you play with 100 people every year. Come on, bro.
Yeah.
So we had that bond, that brotherhood forever. And then honestly, the people on campus were insane. The professors were world class.
Yeah.
You know, I can call, you know, they wrote my letters of recommendations for jobs or to go to grad school. People, you know, are starting $1 million companies. You know, people are starting clothing lines and, you know, doing miraculous things in the world just to make the world a better place. So it's like being in that environment, I knew I had no choice but to rise to be able to compete at a high level on and off the field. And I wanted to be challenged in that way. And I feel like it brought the best out of me, and it also showed me that I had more capabilities outside of just being a wide receiver.
Yeah. And, I mean, it's pretty funny for me, just the fact that my last two guests on the podcast are Stanford alum. So it just feels insane because, you know, usually I feel good. I'm like, I got the Holy Cross degree and everything. Now it's like I'm around some, you know, some 1%ers here. But, I mean, you know, Khalil kind of touched on the fact that everyone at Stanford is at 1%. So it's like, obviously, being around that level of elite, just period, elite, right? In whatever aspect that they're doing, elite. I think that is a great environment to be in, that promotes growth. And honestly, I'm a little jealous of. Obviously, I mean, like, Holy Cross was like that, you know, but again, everyone knows Stanford, right? And then you guys get to be in, Palo Alto?
Yeah. But I would say, man, it was a big switch for me because initially when I first got there, I was, like, blown away by how intelligent everyone was.
Yeah.
And I used to, like, not even raise my hand in class. I used to, like, not participate in class because in my brain I was like, yo, like, they're saying these articulate answers, da-da-da. I'm like, nah, I can't. So at first, when I first got there, I was, you know, scared to, like, talk to people, afraid to raise my hand and participate because of how I would look or come across. But I learned some, you know, study habits, met some different people, and had a better experience. But early on, like, you know, when you first start out, like, you know, I was a little intimidated. I'm not gonna lie.
Did you have a little bit of that imposter syndrome, like where you got there and you saw everyone, and you felt like you didn't belong?
100%.
Yeah,
that's exactly what I meant by it. Like,
and you had to battle that, like
100%. But I realized that was really just myself.
That's the
you
biggest.
Know what I'm saying?
That's
it
the
was
biggest
just myself.
part. Yeah,
I was the one not reading the material. I was the one not taking the time to study, taking the time to do the work. And I was the one that was projecting fears. I was projecting stuff on myself that didn't even happen.
100%.
So before I even got in the class, I can't do this or I can't do that. Like, why are you going to put yourself out the game before you even get a chance?
Didn't even give yourself a shot.
Didn't even give my own self a chance.
Yeah.
So once I realized, I'm like, hold up, like, all I got to do is change up a few things and have more confidence in myself. Like, I made it here too. You know, because, you know, you go in and it's like, oh, so-and-so already has this company, or so-and-so comes from this family, or so-and-so's already an Olympian. That's just in my hallway. Those are just the 3 doors next to me. So I'm like, dang, like, nobody in my family went here. Yeah. My family don't got them. I'm like, dang, I already lost. But now it's like you the one starting it for everybody else.
Exactly.
So once I switched my perspective, it kind of gave me, definitely gave me a whole better experience.
100%. Yeah. I mean, I think that's real. And I kind of want to ask you this, because I feel like it kind of relates to what you're saying. Do you feel like a lot of that can be attributed to kind of I don't even know how I want to put this, but like the stereotype of just being the football player, the kid who got in just because of athletics. Ooh. You know what I mean? Because, there were times at Holy Cross, right? And, we talked about it earlier where, Holy Cross small school, under 4,000 kids. So some of those classrooms were 6 kids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Your teacher knows you well.
Really well.
Like, I'm talking about you're late for class, your teacher's texting you. Yeah. Like, hey, Ayir, you coming in today? I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm on my way, whatever. But so you really get to know how smart some of these kids are. And, there were some situations where I'm like, oh, they think I'm just here because of football. Mm-hmm. And there were some where, the teachers or, the students kind of ask a lot of you. And it's like, man, I am here to ball. You know what I mean? Like, y'all kind of, like, man, I remember this one time I was in class, mm-hmm. and this one was a little bit bigger class. It was maybe 12 kids. And one of the kids asked a question, and I did the reading. So I'm like, hold up. I don't know what he's talking about. And he's like, yeah, professor, I was reading your book. And I'm like, okay, first of all, my professor has a book. And the kids in my class are reading the professor's book. This is not a required reading or anything like that. But I'm like, oh, they're over here. It's 4D chess. Like, in my mind, I'm like, but it clicked for me. I'm like, this is their football. So the same way I'm going in and studying and
take care of your body,
everything, the recovery, the lift, the conditioning, the extra hours, all that stuff. That's how they're treating school. So I'm like, oh, okay, it's a little different. But then again, like you said, it was kind of just a little bit of a fire underneath me to kind of like, all right, I got to lock in. I got to put a little bit more in, and then, tap in with some people. All right, how do y'all study this? Now you're getting the study guides. Mm-hmm. I didn't know there was a study guides. Mm-hmm. So-and-so's older sister went here. All right, they took this professor. Come on, that type of stuff. Yep. So, you can kind of talk about that in your experience at Stanford.
Yeah, man. What really helped me at Stanford Ayir was we had office hours.
Huge.
So if you don't know what office hours is, you can, see your professor, after class or during lunch or whenever they're free, and you can really have that personalized time where you can ask them questions, you could talk about whatever, and they're gonna give you honest feedback. So once I heard about office hours and got over my ego and my pride, like, I'm not going there. They made a little bit of time when I went to office hours. They told me what they wanted me to do. And then when I started having friends outside of football, because I would always go to class and just be, hanging out with my guys on the team because that's who I felt most comfortable. It was comfortable for me.
100%.
But once I started sitting with different people, and I'm like, let me just meet 3 people in all my classes this semester. I'm not going to sit with the football homies. That's when I was like, okay, this is how you study. This is how you learn. That's how you put it together.
100%.
That made me uncomfortable at first because I was used to being around the boys. Yeah. But when I did that, that's what honestly expanded my brain to learn and, treat people differently and know that there's other things like different than ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, as much as schools want to preach this, I think it's the biggest lie ever. We're not the same.
No.
And when I say that, people think that like football players are kind of like arrogant or a little cocky. And I'm not talking about the money we bring in for the school. I'm not talking about, popularity or whatever. I'm just talking about hard commitments and time, right? A normal student can go meet with the professor, meet with them again, meet with them before class, email, all stuff. We don't have that time. People don't understand that, like, before that class, you're lifting. People don't know that lift ends 15 minutes before class. And you still got to shower and change and get over there.
Zooming over there.
You ran over there, you sweating. People only like, all right, yeah, class is at 9, but I've been lifting weights and I've been up since 6. Sometimes before that, in the off-season workouts, now it's like, all right, I got to get my mind right, go in there, you got to focus, change the whole thing. You got a whole meeting later on the install that you ain't even look at yet, and we're still talking about football, and yet I got to perform at the same level, and a lot of times they expect you to do more, and that's the craziest thing to me. It's like, how am I expected to do more with less?
With less time.
And I think that, different programs do different things to, help, but we're not the same. And the more that I try to kind of, I don't know. I felt like a lot of the pressures that were added to myself were by me, right?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't need office hours in high school. So when they offered office hours in college, I'm like, bro, and I think it's that competitor in you, like, I don't need that, right? Like, I'm good. Same thing you do on the football field. All right, I'm gonna do the extra rep, right? I'm gonna do it the hard way because you get more validation, and that's kind of how you progress in football. But in the classroom, no, man, you gotta do what you have to do. Them office hours changed my academic career.
Changed my career, and honestly, I just think that our professors at Stanford, they were reasonable, man.
Yeah,
they were reasonable as long as you were being proactive. So if I told a professor like, hey, so and so, like, we're going to Notre Dame, we're leaving on Thursday, like, can I get to work ahead of time, or can I get an extension? And you weren't, cutting up in class, coming late, sitting in the back, going to sleep, then they're like, okay, cool, Don, like, thanks for letting me know, like, we can work something out.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you just treat the professors as, professionals, and not like you just come in here just to hang out, then they'll also treat you like a professional. So I 100%. Never had any problems with any of my professors at Stanford or Wake Forest, because I always felt like I talked to them ahead of time. I tried my best when I was in class. Even when I got called on, I didn't know an answer, I at least tried to, bring some light into the room to not make it seem like, okay, like, this guy really doesn't care.
Yeah.
And even though I was tired from workouts and film, I was like, I read something, or I did something to add to the conversation.
People don't understand, like, it's the effort.
You can add a little bit.
It's the effort. Like, don't go in there not knowing nothing.
Come on now.
You sitting there and they speaking Spanish. You know what I mean? You're like, hold up. Because you can't hide it. People don't, you can't hide. You sitting there.
No. Yeah.
They ask you. I agree with what they said. You know what I mean? Like, nah, it ain't going to work. But now let's kind of take a little shift into, a break kind of from your journey. We're going to get into, kind of a hot topic.
Mm-hmm.
The draft just happened late April. First thing everyone was talking about was the Shedeur slide. Kind of, what do you think about that? What's your take on that? Everyone was kind of surprised, taken aback. What do you think?
Yeah, as a receiver, man, I've been able to watch a couple of his games. I like his style of play. I watched a little bit of his documentaries and stuff when he was a kid all the way up to now. Like, I respect the grind.
Yeah.
Anyone that could, stick with it, and your dad is Deion Sanders, that comes with a lot. So for him to have his own path, his own journey, I respect that.
Yeah.
And then for him to, get called on draft day, that's huge. So I just want him to be healthy. I want him to do well. I want to have fun. Like, I'm rooting for Shedeur.
Yeah.
And you know how it is. It doesn't matter when you get drafted, when you get picked up. As long as you get in the building, then it's up to you on how you're going to handle it.
100%.
So I saw one stat that he had maybe one of the highest completion percentages.
Yeah, most accurate quarterback.
So there's all types of numbers and analytics, and people got different opinions. But at the end of the day, he got drafted to the Browns. He showed up to OTAs just like everybody else, and he's going to have to turn up in order to earn his spot, and I believe that he will do that.
And I think that when we go through the process ourselves, right, like when you yourself actually go through the draft process and getting ready and getting torn apart.
Pro day,
combines, all-star games, and you understand what they're going through.
Yeah.
You feel for Shedeur. You understand what he was doing, and but also, not getting drafted, as we both ended up going.
Yeah.
You have a different type of appreciation. I'm like, bro, he got drafted in the 5th round.
That's really good.
And, they have these people on the internet. And that's the cool thing I think about Shedeur. He kind of traverses the cultural world and the football world. You know what I mean? He's kind of a social star, like a celebrity.
He's low-key a celebrity.
On his own. Thinking about it. When your dad is prime time, right, he's obviously Deion Sanders' son, but he's Shedeur. And I think that it kind of speaks for itself, where he's able to build his own brand, and that's with his talking off the field, but with his play on the field. I think that a lot of people try to discount that. Like you said, highest completion percentage, super accurate quarterback. But, I mean, just the ability to get drafted is amazing. You have your opportunity. You have guaranteed money. And he was already making money. It wasn't about the money. It's about getting to the NFL, realizing a dream. So I'm definitely happy for him. What did you think about that prank call?
That's kind of low.
Yeah, I thought it was whack. I mean,
that's kind of low.
I don't understand how any of that is funny. Yeah. But again, it's because, to me, I think it's because some of these players are bigger than football, and not obviously bigger than all of football, but they are pop culture celebrities. So people on the outside kind of do stuff that might be normal for a celebrity. You know, they prank call these people and do all this stuff. That's not normal for us because, man, you're chasing your dream. Like, people don't understand. People would die for this stuff. So, like, to try to trick someone in their most vulnerable moment, you know what I mean? On it, like, I was really lame. I saw that, you know, the son or whatever, you know, apologized, but and they find his father, but it's just like, man, that's lame. Yeah, I didn't like it.
But for someone like Shedeur, man, I could see him, as savvy as he is, I could see him turn that into a positive with the Browns.
100%.
But also with his music, because he's doing music off the field too.
100%.
So
100%.
he's going to take that and be like, okay, bet, now you add it. Now, not only am I going to do my thing on the field, but now I'm going to do, I know for sure he's going to do something with music in that.
Yeah.
Because he's on the mic, he's in the studio.
Yeah.
So
I know you like music, so we'll tap into that a little later. But just a couple more. Growing up, what team did you like?
I was only allowed to root for the Steelers per my dad. So
yeah.
I was
okay. So I was gonna ask you about Jackson Dart.
Okay.
But instead I'll ask you about Will Howard.
So I like Will Howard too.
Yep.
I'm also a fan of the Giants too. If I was to choose Giants or Jets,
Yep.
So I like both of their styles of play. Obviously Jackson, he could run a little bit. So we want to see how the Giants decide to manage that. You know, being in the NFL now.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, both super accurate. Both swaggy.
Yeah, got a little something to
them. And I feel like, you know, they're real deal leaders. You know what I'm saying? They're not just somebody that's like, you know, do it for the cameras.
100%.
I feel like the boys in the locker room really like rock with them.
Yeah.
And you can see how they command the huddles and, you know, man, I like both of them.
Yeah.
I like both of them.
And then, you know, we just talked about Shedeur.
Rarely you ever get me talking bad about a QB.
That's fair. I mean, I feel like that's a receiver trait. I mean, unless he's really trash, then it's like, all right, bro. You know what I mean? But no, I mean, but like you said, any of these dudes that are even getting drafted, they have to be not. People don't understand. I think I encourage all of y'all that are watching, if you get the opportunity to go to a camp, like a training camp, an NFL training camp, go to camp. Like, you know, I was with the Giants last year. People were, how trash is Daniel Jones? I'm like, bro, Daniel Jones is one of the nicest quarterbacks I've seen with my two eyes. And practice, hardest working dude I ever seen. First of all, I didn't know this dude was 6'6".
Yeah, he's huge.
Bro.
Yeah.
First day I got there, he had walked in from a workout before the workout. You know, he was coming off the ACL. I'm like, bro, these dudes are different. Now, everyone in the league is different. But the quarterbacks, I'm talking about, I'm running the route. I'm like, bro, like, all right, what if I do it? They're like, bro, don't worry about all that. Like, he going to put it there. I'm like, what y'all talking about? We get to them 7-on-7s. Everyone. Bang, bang. I'm like, all right. So I would encourage anyone that is interested in football. And honestly, I kind of wish I did it when I was in high school or maybe in college. Got to see the game and, you know, kind of see where we fit. Because as much as I saw that with the quarterbacks and stuff like that, with the other players, I'm like, I could play. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I was in practice, so I'm over there doing stuff. But it's like, I wish I would have seen that a little earlier because it would have given me a little bit more confidence in college. I had the confidence around like junior year, but that's neither here nor there. Last thing I'll ask you about, obviously just happened today, George Pickens going to the Cowboys. You're a Steelers fan. How does that feel?
Oh, man, I like George Pickens, man.
Yeah.
I just think that his game, when he touches the ball, you never really know. He might take it to the crib every single time he touches the ball.
Explosive.
A very explosive player. So, yeah, him and CeeDee Lamb out in Dallas, you know, that's going to be exciting to watch.
Yeah.
But
I'm sad we didn't get to see DK and George.
Yeah.
I don't think there's too many secondaries that have DBs for DK and George. And then I think that was going to open up the game for Calvin Austin. I like his game a lot.
I like Calvin Austin as well.
So, I mean, I was excited to see that. Really interested to see what that's going to look like. Really interested to see how the secondaries in the NFC East feel about that. I mean, you have AJ Devontae and Jahan Dotson over in Philly. You got Malik Neighbors, Wandell, Jalen Hyatt, and Slayton. Oh, can't forget Slayton in New York. And then I'm pretty sure the Commanders picked up Debo.
Oh my gosh.
With Scary Terry.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty loaded for one division. You know, those games are already loaded. So, super excited for football. I think this year for free agency, I don't know if maybe I was just more tapped in because, you know, it's more relevant for me, but it's been one of the craziest off seasons I've seen in a while. But kind of like a basketball off season with all the trades and stuff like that. But
it's been a lot of moves.
100%. Super excited. All right, so now take us through your process at Stanford on the football side, right? You get there as a freshman, you know, what was it like? Were you starting? Were you at the bottom of the totem pole? You know, what was that like for you? And then, you know, work through your career at Stanford.
Yeah, so my freshman year was the last year of two-a-days.
Yeah.
So we did 2 days.
That's rough.
Yeah, I was barely making it through that.
Mm-hmm.
But I was redshirted the first 3 games, and I got called up that 3rd game. So I played at Washington. It was my first ever college football game. 80,000 fans. Number 7 versus number 10. Buda Baker, Kevin King, Sidney Jones, John Ross, Jake Browning, Vita Vea,
the boys.
Purple Smoke. It was rowdy. That was my first ever college game. It was turned up.
Yeah.
We lost by 40 on ESPN, but I had a great time.
Yeah, that's how it be. That's how it be.
Yeah, man. So that was my first ever game. Played my freshman year. Had a great experience. We won a bowl game against UNC. So, yeah, it was just – I think my freshman year was just good to travel, be on the team. So I didn't get a lot of playing time, but I was in the mix.
Just welcome to college.
Welcome to college football, man. I enjoyed it. Sophomore year, had a little bit of a bigger role. We went to the Pac-12 championship, played in the Alamo Bowl game against TCU. And then my junior year, I was thinking I was going to take an even bigger role, but I ended up getting surgery on my thumb in the spring. So I decided to, you know, talk to coach in redshirt. I was behind J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, who was up for the Biletnikoff. So
he was
first
a
3 games,
dog.
Yeah, so the first 3 games, that was the year that the rule came out where you could redshirt after playing 4 games.
Okay.
So I played 3. I didn't really get no looks. Just coming off surgery anyway. I'm like, yo, you might as well redshirt. So I redshirt. And that was the year that allowed me to get the extra year at Wake.
Okay.
So redshirt my junior year, and I feel like that year off the field, I learned out who I was because I wasn't playing. And then also, like, I was a junior lifting with the freshmen. So that's how I learned to, you know, integrate with different groups of people, not just people that I came in with.
Yeah.
So I was doing the lifts with them. I started doing music. I started doing, like, motivational speaking. I really found myself off the field because I feel like also that was when I really tapped in with God for the first time where my parents weren't forcing me to go to church.
I feel you.
So once I wasn't playing, I'm lifting with the freshmen. I'm like, dang, like, I'm a junior not traveling after I was playing my freshman year. Yeah. I was feeling crazy.
It makes you ask a lot of questions.
I was feeling crazy, and I think that was the first time that God brought me to my knees, and I started praying, meditating, glass of water, like every single morning. Like that's how I started my days, and that's what led me to my passions and gifts that I'm actually using right now. Yeah. So that was like a small taste of that. Senior year, had some injuries in camp, so that year was tough. But I got 1 target. I scored versus Cal, 40-yard TD. So that's a big game. That's how I went out on my basically by my birthday. So
y'all got the axe?
We didn't get the axe.
No.
We didn't get the axe. No. And yeah, so my senior year was rough. That was our first year not making a bowl game. Okay. And then hit the portal.
Yeah, still have Shaw at that point, or?
Yep. Still had Coach Shaw. Hit the portal in December. Committed to Wake, and I think January I was between Wake Forest and University of Northern Colorado, where Christian McCaffrey's dad was coaching. Yeah. So he's like, "Yo, bro, you come here, like I get you right." Yeah. And I'm thinking like, "Oh, Wake Forest, Clemson, Miami, UNC, closer to home."
100%.
Masters over there. I'm like, that's probably the best look for me at the time. Spread offense. So ended up going to Wake Forest, and then COVID year, got a lot of games canceled, and then my last year, which was my 6th year, played 6 years somehow. Yeah. Went 11-3, had one of the best seasons in Wake Forest history. Played a lot, was a leader on the team, and we cemented the legacy as one of the best teams in Wake Forest history.
That last year, did you have Hartman?
Had Sam, yep.
Yeah, with that slow mesh.
he was AT, Quarry, Taylor, Keyshawn, Jamal, Don.
Y'all were wilding.
Going federal. Yeah, we averaged 30 a game.
Yeah, that's fire.
Yeah, and it was fun.
It's awesome that they were able to spread the ball. Yeah, I think that's the best when everyone's touching it. Everyone's
getting love. Yeah, can't stop.
Can't beat that.
And we had 2 or 3 running backs too at the time too. We had Christian Bill Smith, Justice Ellison, and my guy Q.
So yeah, that slow match. I mean, people be hating on it, I like watching it because it just made me crack up because that's so offense, bro.
Yeah,
The defense. I don't people like the defensive minded people hate it. Like what is it like? Because it breaks all the rules and you just waiting. All right, you come up, boom. Yeah, you want to sit back? All right, boom. And then like you said, when you got backs that can get
getting jiggy.
So,
but what was crazy too as a receiver, we had options for every answer.
Yeah.
So you got
you can't be wrong.
Cat, you got man, you got zone. Wake Forest really showed us how to beat any coverage.
And the thing is, that challenges y'all though, because y'all gotta read.
Really gotta read. Real time. You're reading pre-snap, but then you're reading post-snap.
100%. The most important read is that post-snap. Obviously, you can have a plan, but hey, when they spin, he blitz. Whoa. You know what I mean? You gotta know who the hot is and just be ready to make a play.
Got to.
And I think that again, it challenges y'all, but then it just kind of shows how smart of players you guys were. And that offense. Now, again, I kind of want to touch back on what you mentioned in that your Stanford journey. I think that a lot of people don't understand how much football means to a young man who loves the game, right? And when you're coming up, especially someone that sees success, right? Pop Warner to whatever you do, middle school to high school to getting offers and becoming that guy, a playmaker. People don't understand how much it shapes your identity, the kind of your world perspective, right? A lot of your habits and the stuff that forms the person you're becoming, right? In those formative years, early formative, but those formative years, you're out there becoming a dog, right? You're understanding the relationship between the work I put into the results, right? Yeah, I want to be a dog. I want to score you touchdowns, but I understand during June, July, August, I got to put in that work. I got to be out here sweating. I got to be out here doing extra. I got to do more than everyone out here, right? And I think people kind of undermine that process, right? They think, you're kind of meatheads, you're in the weight room, all that stuff. And it's like, yeah, I'm in the weight room and I'm putting in this work, but you don't understand how it translates, right? Understanding what I do today will be shown tomorrow. Directly. Like, people don't understand. It ain't no luck involved with this stuff. Right, it's the work you put in, and it is. I think people don't understand, and I'm kind of gonna lean into this a little bit. It's a faith that you put in, and it's not knowing 100% what is gonna be that one thing that puts you over the top, but understanding I gotta put this work in, and it's gonna work out. Understanding it's gonna work out.
It's gonna work out.
And like you said, when you got to Stanford and you didn't see that immediate success and, it kind of opened up that space for you, I think that is really cool that you were able to lock in with your faith. And it kind of opens up. And I think it's a great opportunity for introspection, right? It gives you the opportunity to look within. Because I was talking to Khalil about this with his process, and I feel like everyone's done it at some point. Whether it was early in their career, even some dudes in high school and Pop Warner, or some dudes don't see it until the NFL, you're going to question yourself a little bit. No matter how confident you are, no matter how much work you put in, you're going to question yourself, and that's only natural. And I think that the answers to those questions in those moments shows you who you really are, and it kind of, helps develop the person you are, because it's real to I've been that guy. I put in the work. I get this. I worked hard. I got this. I stayed locked in. I kept my head down. I stayed clean. I got this. Now it's like I'm doing all that stuff and I'm not seeing the results. So then you get those questions of, am I still that? Right? Everyone wants to be him. And it's like, when everyone's saying you're not him, are you still him? Right? And it's like, I don't know. I think, I kind of talk about the duality, where I'm kind of throwing a lot at you, but the duality of, your reality and your circumstance, and then who you know to be you, right? For instance, right, when I was at Holy Cross, my last couple of years, we kind of shifted to a quarterback run and, duo type of offense. We had a crazy offensive line. And my freshman year, when I first got there, it was spread, RPO, everything. So I think statistically that might have been my best year, yardage-wise and catch-wise. But the last couple of years, I kind of shifted to a big play, X-play type of guy, 20 catch, sub 30 catch guy.
Okay.
And it kind of made me question a little bit of like, all right, like, am I getting worse? am I still that guy? But then, obviously you return to no. I am still that guy. I am still putting in this work. It just looks a little different offense, whatever. And, you don't want to make excuses for yourself. That's the thin line, right? Like, am I making excuses or am I keeping it real? And, you're just waiting for your opportunity. And it's hard to see when you're getting the opportunity, right? You're at PC. It's hard. You don't have those questions. You're like, bro, I'm that guy. They're throwing me the ball. I'm going up and getting these touchdowns no matter who you're playing, right? You're playing dogs. You don't got to have those questions. It's all being answered for you. You're like, the guy in front of me has 40 offers, and I'm doing him crazy. So I do anybody crazy.
Yeah.
So, and that's that confidence that we come into college with. So now when you're going against these guys that you feel like you should be, doing your thing, and you may or may not be seeing the success, it's just, now it's like, all right, let's take a moment. And, I just want to open this up to you, kind of speak on that moment for you. Like you said, it opened it up for you to explore more of yourself. I think that's heavy. I think there's a lot to that. So, I'll just give it to you.
Yeah, bro. I mean, I appreciate you touching on that because I feel like you said, when you play sports, you give your all to sports. Blood, sweat, and tears since third, fourth grade.
Young.
That's all you really know. So when you get to college or when you get to high school or when you get to the pros and it doesn't really work out for you, you're kind of like second guessing yourself a little bit, but you're more than just your sport.
100%.
You have more skills, you have more talents, but you just haven't tapped into them because you just gave all your time and energy to your sport.
100%.
So when I was forced to not play, when God actually sat me down and was like, yeah, you're not playing, and I'm sitting here like, dang, like, what else am I supposed to do? I sat down for a minute, like, hold up. Like, I got some other skills that I could tap in. I don't know what they are yet, but when I started trying different things, that's when I realized, I'm like, oh, wait, I can play the drums. Like, let me get involved with a band on campus. Like,
yeah,
it worked a different part of my brain. I got introduced to a different network of people. Like, I started having fun again.
Yeah.
I did motivational speaking. I'm like, hold up. Like, I can actually, inspire people to get out of their tough situations. Like, I do that in the locker room, so why I can't do it on a different scale? And I feel like, honestly, bro, everything just came back for me in terms of, like, confidence.
Yeah.
And I realized that, like, when you put the work in, doesn't matter if it's, computer science or sports or music, when you put the work in, you're going to feel more confident.
100%.
When you have positive self-talk, you're going to be more confident because you can't be listening to everybody else. You got to positively uplift yourself.
100%.
And then when you're consistent with the work and the positive self-talk, that's how you build confidence. And at that point, it don't matter if it's 1,000 people watching or if you didn't, you put in a situation last minute, like you're going to feel confident in any situation you walk into. So 100%. Once I started building confidence outside of football and I already knew I was nasty with football, that's junior year.
That's the cheat code.
That's the cheat code.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the cheat code.
Yeah.
And I think that I think it's pretty cool that the way you described it, it seems like that moment was identity revealing.
100%, bro.
It kind of showed you, because it's sad.
Isn't that funny that it wasn't catching the game-winning touchdown? It was more so the redshirt year.
It's insane how it works that way, right? It's those moments, and I think that some people get tricked into that idea, and it's really a trap that their identity is football. And I think that obviously social media can be good or bad, but I think I always look at it as a tool. And when you're able to get out there and read or watch some of this good stuff, I mean, you guys are watching this podcast, you get to see, and you get to see people and hear from their stories about them realizing their identity and understanding that they're more than just a football player. And I think that when you're younger, you're afraid of that. You're like, nah, I'm the football player. I'm going to the league. I'm doing this. And it's like, no, you can do that and be more. You're more than that.
Yep.
You are not defined by that.
Mm-hmm.
And
also you're not defined by a poor performance or a mistake.
100%.
Like, I feel like kids today, like, make a mistake, it's the end of the world. Like, nah, bro, you gotta bounce. Like, because that was me. Like, I feel like if I dropped the pass or if I missed the block, I can't go out and hang out with my friends, or I can't go to the mall. Like, people are gonna, obviously the pressures now are different with social media, but I would say, like, don't let one mistake, like, hold you back from, completing a task and figuring out that, like, one mistake doesn't define you.
100%. I mean, you're definitely not defined by your shortcomings. That's awesome. I'm glad you were able to, speak on that.
For sure.
Now we're going to transition well, to something a little bit more fun. It was a little deep.
Okay.
We're gonna get into the blind rankings.
Okay.
We're gonna blind rank some Stanford alum football
Okay.
players. 1 through 5. 1 being the greatest, 5 being not. I mean, they're all great.
Yeah.
But that's how the game goes.
Okay.
And we're gonna start with Andrew Luck.
Not knowing the rest of the names.
Not knowing the rest of the names. Andrew Luck.
Come on,
That's
bro.
tough.
The GM?
New GM.
Come on, I can't do my GM like that. I'm putting him at 1.
Put him at 1. That's a safe bet though. I mean,
put him at 1.
Andrew Luck. All right. So then we're just gonna go with 2. Christian McCaffrey.
Oh man. I mean, yeah, I'm safe at 2 with him.
Okay.
Yep.
Fair. Dog.
Yeah.
Zach Ertz.
Okay. Also a dog. I'm putting him at 4. I'm putting him at 4.
See, the hardest thing about Stanford is like you said, there's so many Olympians and just overall just greats. You know what I mean? Like,
come on.
So there's no the line between 1 and 5 are so thin.
Yeah.
But so yeah, all right, you have them at 4 or 5?
I'm gonna put him at 5.
5, okay, bet.
Yeah.
So you have 1, 2, and 5. So we have 3 and 4 available. We're gonna go John Elway.
I would put John at 3.
And then Richard Sherman. So,
oh wow, okay. I'm not mad at that lineup.
I'm not mad at that.
We went
Andrew
GM,
Luck.
we went C-Mac,
Yeah.
who I played with firsthand, so I seen that with my own 2 eyes.
Yeah. Elway,
Richard Sherman,
Zach Ertz.
and Zach Ertz. I'm happy with that.
I think that's clean. I mean,
Yeah,
you got out of there pretty clean. It's scary when you start with Andrew Luck, but you got out of there clean. And okay, so then we'll talk. Just kind of speak on your time at Wake.
Okay.
You transferred there 2 years. You had some success.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of we talked about all that you guys were able to do there, but actually, I mean, you kind of touched on it, so we can kind of talk about now at the end of Wake.
Okay.
Realizing, all right, I have a shot at the NFL.
Yep.
Here's my process. You went and trained. Where'd you
Yep.
train?
So I was here in Jersey.
Okay.
Yep.
Who'd you train with, or were you just
So I trained with my trainer that I grew up with.
perfect?
Yep.
Because he knew you,
Yep.
you trusted him.
Exactly.
And I mean, I think that's a big point. Some people go with the biggest name or the
Mhm.
biggest brand or whatever. At the end of the day, I mean, do whatever you got to do to get right.
Facts.
How'd you do at Pro Day?
Yeah, man. So I did a lot of pro days.
Yeah.
So I did the Stanford Pro Day, and then I just threw routes for the San Jose State Pro Day.
Okay.
And then a week later, I did the Wake Forest Pro Day.
Okay.
So low key, it was too much. I did a lot. I thought I was giving myself the best chance.
You just want as much exposure as
Wanted as much
possible.
exposure as possible, but
Yeah.
it probably would have been best just to do the Wake Forest Pro Day. Looking back, but I felt like I did good. I felt like I did well. I feel like it was a great experience to be in front of the coaches and then get invited to local days for Giants and the Panthers and the Colts. So I think that it was definitely a life-changing experience for me because it was like, oh snap, like it's really happening.
Yeah.
And then also it was another life-changing experience when I didn't end up playing. You know what I'm saying? So all of that was very interesting to navigate real time because I went into that period of my life like, no, I'm 100% gonna get picked up even if I had to go undrafted.
Yeah.
So here I am, not getting drafted, not getting into mini camps, and like really being forced to figure out like what I'm gonna do next. So I started coaching at CNR Prep. I'm working for a tech startup. I'm acting. And then the years after that, I'm really just trying a whole bunch of different things, trying to figure out like what really sticks. And then I feel like this year is like the first year where I'm like, okay, like I know like what I'm good at, and I'm just full on leading into that, and it's been awesome.
That's amazing. I mean, I kind of talked about it, earlier on my channel and stuff about, getting cut. And people don't understand how quickly this stuff happens, right? Like, obviously, it's a long process and it's super hard and everything like that. But once the draft happens, people get signed. Mini camps happen. Literally, I mean, like, it felt like the draft just happened. The mini camps are already happening. So those camps are over. Now it's like if you didn't get that opportunity, people, there's like 90 to 100 kids at those mini camps. One dude gets signed. So now that's another 89 to 99 people that didn't get signed. Now they got to figure out what's going on. Do they stop?
Yeah.
Do they keep going?
Yeah.
people don't have the funding.
Yeah.
And it gets real. You know what I mean? You're not in college anymore.
It gets real.
Where are you going to live? How are you going to eat? Like I said, we're coming from that non-NIL era. You ain't coming out of college sitting on an M.
Nah.
You know what I mean? So I know we talked a little bit about it earlier. I don't want to kind of skip through your process. So you ended up going, what was it? Did you go to the CFL first?
Yeah, so 2022 was the NFL workouts, didn't sign. 2023 went up to Canada, got released. So that's when you study the playbook, you train like a madman, you go up there.
A whole different type of football.
A whole different type of ball. First time in Canada. Going shout out Ottawa. So go up there, play for like a week, and the next thing I get this call. I'm still in my bed, bro. I looked at the number. I seen the guy who called me. I'm like, yeah, this is not good.
Yeah.
Got the call, got released, went down, gave my playbook. I was on a bus the next day back to Jersey. So, like, obviously, like, that was, like, tough in the moment. But it made me realize, like, yo, you really got to take advantage of any opportunity. And that's just not with ball. Like, any opportunity you get in life, like, you got to seize it.
100%.
Yeah. So, that was 2023. And then, yeah, that was, like, the last football, I guess, workout or tryout that I had.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, obviously you're young.
Mm-hmm.
Life doesn't stop. It's really just beginning for you. And like you said, we talked about you being a player development coach at Princeton.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you just love these prestigious universities. And obviously work well, in those environments and stuff like that. But you said that you're now getting into marketing. What's that been like for you, and kind of where do you see that going for you? What's that like?
Yeah, man, I love that question, because the reason why I enjoy player development is because I'm doing everything that I wish I had when I was at Stanford, when I was at Wake Forest. So I'm telling the players, like, this is really the game. This is really the blueprint. This is where I fell short. Don't do this. You know what I'm saying? So helping them build their brands, helping them get involved in the community. I lead a workshop every Wednesday night where I talk about, just various topics, and they come up and talk about their whys. I think that was awesome. We all enjoyed it. Probably the most powerful room I've been in. People have crazy stories when you actually give them a platform to speak.
Yeah.
So similar to player development, I think that goes hand in hand with marketing, because that's just storytelling.
Yeah.
You're being able to tell Ayir Asante's story because he eats this certain food, or he dressed a certain way, or he believes in this thing. How do I take what you already do naturally and bring it to a company and make them feel like, okay, like, we need him because it's relatable, and it's genuine, it's authentic. So for me, marketing started at the Super Bowl. I don't even know how. I just think that, my friends now turned clients were just, we were trying to go into events and different spaces, and they said, like, hey, like, you can just say I'm your manager, because it was just easier. It's just easier to have someone speak for you.
Yeah.
So they're like, yo, Don, like, you just say, you're my manager, or whatever. And I was actually getting them to spaces with no tickets, no credibility, nothing. I'm just saying, yo, I'm like, okay, like, maybe I could do this. And this led to my friends giving me more opportunities. So Yankee home opener, I was able to get Bobby Okereke, like, first class seats, sweet access, personalized jersey, jumbotron, shout out.
Yeah.
And then a few days before that, same with the Gotham FC soccer team. Like,
seen that.
That happened, like, Gotham on Sunday, Yankees on Thursday, and we actually had Knicks tickets on Sunday, but it was just a lot going on that week.
Yeah. Which is crazy.
In
New York City, in this market.
Yeah. So that was my first time really, leaning into that gift of, marketing, PR, and I felt like I'm good at it because I already have the relationships.
Yeah.
I know what my clients enjoy doing or where they want to go. So I just simply talk to people who are in those arenas and, facilitate a relationship and then kind of negotiate from there. So I really enjoy doing the marketing. And then off the field projects as well, whether it's like hosting a camp. On Saturday, I was able to host like Cory Booker for, Stanford football reunion. And that was an awesome experience because, yeah, for sure. Because that was the first time that, Stanford football alumni gathered in New Jersey ever.
Other coast.
To support Cory Booker. So Bobby and I, we co-led that together. And I think that was like a huge experience just for not only myself, but the entire Stanford community on the East Coast to finally get together. So I'm just figuring out different ways to bring people together, but also shine light on people in their gifts and skills. I feel like I take like huge happiness and pride in being able to uplift others.
I think that's amazing. Just being able to take your natural talent and your natural charisma, your ability to, work with people. And I think it's really funny how things always just have a way of working out, right? Like you're just in the right place at the right time. Like we talked about, the Navy coach coming in, right? And then I could offer, right? You're just in the right places and with the right people, and, you get those opportunities. But the thing is, you're ready for those opportunities. You've been prepared through varying ways that you couldn't predict. You know what I mean? Things that maybe when you were going through it, you didn't really see how that was kind of preparing you for this moment, right? You didn't know you were going to be at the Super Bowl and stuff like that.
Not at all.
And like you said, you never know who you're going to meet and, how they're going to relate or how they're going to end up working with you on certain stuff. And you're not doing it for that, but that stuff does naturally happen. And I think it's beautiful the way that stuff plays out. How can anyone that's trying to work with you or kind of tap in, take a moment to tell them how to reach you or, kind of even give them a little pitch if you want?
Yeah, for sure. So
that's your camera.
Right there. That's my camera. That's me. Yep. So I'm Donald Stewart. And for anyone that would like to work out, a deal or, help me facilitate something, whether that's in marketing or PR or something in the community, feel free to hit my LinkedIn, Donald Stewart, as well as my Instagram _Donald Stewart. So, I would love to, help out any way. Just let me know. And, that's pretty much it. My LinkedIn and my IG, that's probably the easiest way to reach me.
Tap in with your boy. Real genuine dude, obviously. I think you guys can feel that through the lens. It's pretty much all I got for you. It was amazing. I appreciate you for spending your time here. And as always, thank you guys for listening. Again, we've been feeling the love, the support, the likes, the shares, the comments. That all goes in. We track all that stuff. We know. We use that to kind of gauge how much you guys are liking the content. We've been trying some different stuff. We did the breakdowns, kind of a more niche type of thing, more football specific type of thing. And, we want to bring you guys the content and, the people that you guys want to listen to. So, let us know whether you're dropping comments or, reaching out to us through the Ayir Asante TV page on Instagram. We read all that stuff and we appreciate you guys. I'm trying to think. Your boy's going to Canada, right? This is probably my last in-person podcast episode. So, we will be going to a different format. I think that it'll look pretty similar on the video. Lokesh is going to do a great job of editing that. And, we're going to be bringing a camera up there and everything. But there's going to be a lot of great opportunity, a lot of great content. Canada, whole different country, different football. You guys are going to be, I'm going to bring you guys with me on my path. I'm literally driving up there tomorrow morning, report date. We're going to do day in your lives. We're going to, take you guys along. We're going to be not editing, but recording and breaking down film. I think it's going to be a great experience. And I think it's going to be really cool because you guys are going to be there with me, right? So, I'll be there, but you'll be there as well. See the culture, see the country. Get to eat the food, all that. Whatever you guys want to see, we're going to be doing it. So stay tuned. I'm super excited. Really don't know what else to say, but thank you guys. And we appreciate you guys on this entire journey. Like, comment, and subscribe. Catch you next one.